So basically what I have to do is I have to now use the formula for both the cone and the sphere. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to pull up the formula for a cone. And you can see there, you can get this from the formula sheet, the formula for a cone is 1/3 pi r squared h. So let's go ahead and fill in these numbers. So 1/3 times 3.14 times the radius. Now again, you have to be careful here. The radius is not 12, that's the diameter, and we know that the radius is half that. So the radius will be 6, so that's going to be 6 squared times the height, which is 12. So go ahead and enter that into the calculator, and when you do enter that into the calculator, you end up with the following. As I turn my pages here, you get 452.2 centimeters cubed. So that is the volume for the cone. Now I'm not done. I got to now find the volume of the sphere. So let's go ahead and pull up the formula there, and here is a formula for sphere. And this is the one that has it raised to the third power. So again, we should be familiar with these formulas by now. But 4/3 times 3.14 times the radius. We said the radius was 6 to the third power. So enter this into the calculator. When you enter this in the calculator, you get 452. Oops, I'm sorry, that's a mistake. You don't get 452. You get 900. Oops, where's my pen? 904.4. But again, that's the formula for a sphere, and we're dealing with a half a sphere. So what I want to do with that is divide it by 2, because this is half of a sphere. So divide that number by 2. Now we end up getting 452.2 centimeters cubed. So what I'm going to do now is I'm now going to add my 452.2 and my 452.2. And when I do that, I get 904.4 centimeters cubed. Okay, so let's take a look at the next one, number 4. Again, these problems are all about trying to find your shapes, trying to identify what shapes are there. So if you look closely at this one, you'll notice here I have a cylinder. And again, I've got a hemisphere on top of the cylinder. So let's first pull up the formula for cylinder, which is right here. And that's the easiest of all three of the formulas. That's pi r squared h. So now let's fill in the information. So that's going to be 3.14 times r squared. So in this case, they do give me the radius. So it's going to be 9 squared times the height, which is 17. Enter that into the calculator. And when you enter that into the calculator, you get 4,323.8 inches cubed. Okay, so that's still only part of the answer. I still gonna need to figure out, well, what is the volume of this hemisphere that's on top of our shape? So again, we need to pull up the formula for a sphere, which is 4/3 pi r cubed. Let's go ahead and fill in this information. So that's 4/3 times 3.14 times r cubed, so times 9 to the third power. Go to your calculator, enter that in. Okay, so you get 3,052.1. Okay, so, but that is for a full sphere. Again, it's a big catch, and a lot of you might forget to do this. We're not dealing with a full sphere. We're actually dealing with a hemisphere. So again, I want to divide that by 2. Please write that down so you don't mess that up. And when you divide that by 2, you get 1526 points. We'll call it 0.1 there. And then just finally add your cylinder to your hemisphere, and we end up with 5,849.8 inches cubed. Okay, moving on to number 2. This kind of looks like a pill here. We want to find the volume of this, and again, one of the things you notice, we have a hemisphere on top and a hemisphere on the bottom, and to be honest, that just kind of put those two together and you end up with a full sphere. So in this case, I don't have to divide by 2 because I'm going to have a full sphere based on the top. What other shape do I have in this one? Well, I have I have a cylinder and the sphere. So I'm going to pull down my cylinder, make a duplicate of that, bring that down here. So I'm going to work on that guy. So pi r squared h, so let's go ahead and fill in the numbers here. So the cylinder would be 3.14 times r squared, and it give us the radius, so that's nice. So that's 6 squared times the height, which is 11. Let's go ahead and multiply that. We get 1243.4. Okay, now we need to do the sphere. So duplicate that, bring this down. Sphere formula, which again you guys should become pretty familiar with at this point. So 4/3 times 3.14 times 6 cubed. When you do that, you end up getting 904.3. So what we're going to do is just add those two guys together. And when you add those two guys together, we are going to get 2147.7 meters cubed. So that would go right there in your volume. Okay, so what I want you to do now is take a look at number 6. Number 6 is very similar to number 1, or I'm sorry, well, I guess would be number 3. It's just the numbers are a little bit different. Please take note of whether or not you have the radius or the diameter when you do this problem. But go ahead and take a couple minutes to do this problem. Please hit pause so you can work on this problem. And then check your answers. Okay, so let's quickly check our answers here. So you can see the cone, the formula is 1/3 times 3.14 times 10 squared, which is our radius, times 15, which is our height. You get 1570. For the sphere, you get 4/3 times 3.14 times the radius cubed. And you end up getting 4,186.6, but don't forget you got to divide that by 2 because we only have half a sphere. You get 2093.3. Add that to 1570. You end up getting 3,663.3. If you have that answer, feel free to move on. If you didn't get that and you're not sure what you did, please check with your teacher right now. Okay, let's take a look at the next page. So number 5, here's another problem just like the pill. Go ahead and do this one on your own. Check your answers in a couple minutes. It's just like number 2 on the previous page. So go ahead and hit pause. Okay, when you see this problem, we know that we have a cylinder matched up with a full sphere. So go ahead and use the cylinder formula, which is 3.14 times 2 squared times 6. Gives me my 75.4. The sphere is going to be 4/3 times 3.14 times 2 cubed. Gets me 33.5. Add those two guys up. You get 108.9 meters cubed. Okay? Let's take a look at the next two problems. They're a little bit different than the previous ones. The first type, we have some rectangular prisms on top of each other, and then the second type we have a rectangular prism followed by a cone. So the rectangular prism, the volume of a rectangular prism is, oops, let me write that down, basically length times width times height. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the volume of the big box down below, and then I'm going to find the volume of the little box up above. So you look at the bottom box, and you can see that the length, the width, and the height are all labeled with these 3 dimensions here. So I'm just going to fill in, I'm going to write big here, multiply my 3 dimensions, which are 12 times 6 times 3, and when I do that, I get 216. Now I'm going to do the smaller box. You notice there's missing an amount there. I'm not quite sure how much it is from here to here. But if you notice, it's the same exact side as the 6 millimeters. So this dimension here is going to be 6 millimeters. So now, for the small box, I'm going to do 6 times 4 times 4. When you do 6 times 4 times 4, you get 96. And since I'm adding the two boxes here, you get 312 millimeters cubed. And again, that will go right there for your answer. And looking at this last figure, we notice that the two shapes here are a cone and a rectangular prism on the bottom. So the first thing I'm going to do is the big box on the bottom. So that's going to be 17 times 9 times 5. Okay, I get those from these dimensions of the box right here. 17 times 9 times 5 is 765. So now I need to find the formula for a cone, which is right here in the bottom. Let's bring this up here. So 1/3 times 3.14 times my radius. Now, the radius isn't shown. They're not giving you the radius. Well, here's what I do know. The radius is going to be, well, the diameter is from one edge of the cone to the other. And I can see that they get the diameter from this 9 on the bottom. It's the same length. All the way across the box is 9. So all the way across the box here is 9. So that's the diameter. So to get the radius, cut that in half. So it's 4.5 squared. Can't get that 5 working. Times my height, which is 10. And when you do that, you get 212. So again, add those two bad boys up, and you end up with 977 meters cubed. Okay, so the next two problems are going to be on your quiz. So go ahead and answer those next two problems on the quiz. Not quite yet, because I want to go over a word problem here that's on your last pages. So go ahead and swing to the last page here. Okay, so go to the back of the packet where you have a word problem with Sandy, and it says, Sandy does not want this pond in her yard anymore. How much will it cost her to fill the pond? If dirt is $2 a cubic yard. The diameter of the pond is 11 yards. The depth in the center is 3.5 yards. So the pond is in the shape of a cylinder. So the first thing I'm going to do is draw a cylinder. Do the best of my ability there. Then I'm going to fill in some of the information. So I know that the diameter is 11, and the depth, which means basically from the top to the bottom, is 3.5. So the height is 3.5. So now we can go ahead and find the volume of this shape. So I'm going to go ahead and use my formula for a cylinder, and the formula for a cylinder is pi r squared h. So, doing a lesson here, Gabs.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right. Yikes. Okay, so pi r squared h, so 3.14. Now, if my diameter is 11, that means my radius is 5.5 squared times 3.5, and you end up getting 332.4 cubic yards. Now, a lot of people think that that's the answer. It is not, because I'm not done. I want to know how much would it cost for the dirt. Well, I got to order 332 cubic yards of dirt. Well, how much is it per cubic yard? Well, you get $2 per cubic yard, so I got to multiply that by 2 to find my total price, which is then $664.80. Okay. So be careful in questions like that have multiple representations of what they're looking for. So the first thing you got to do is find the actual volume of the cylinder. Then you got to find out how much it costs. So please be careful of that. Okay, then the ice cream problem will be found on your quiz. So right now, go ahead and start working on your quiz. There's only, I think, 3 questions on that. See if you can get that finished. And then let your teacher know when you are done. Okay? If you have any questions, again, always feel free to ask your teacher in the room. Okay, good luck.